Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning to everyone. Welcome to this session in partnership with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Gies College of Business. I'm Archit Ambekar from Seed Global Education. I can see that many attendees are joining in. We'll give it a couple of minutes more for people to join in before we start the session. In the meanwhile, I'm going to quickly introduce all of you to Seed. We're a UK headquartered company that facilitates connections between leading universities and prospective students like yourselves. Our mission is to connect aspiring students like you with faculty and admissions teams from top universities, allowing you to explore their programs and make informed decisions about your career goals. For those of you who are still joining in, welcome again to today's webinar hosted in partnership with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Gies College of Business. I'm going to delve a little bit more about what the university is. The university is globally recognized as a leader in business education, known for its evolving demands of the modern business world. It was founded in 1915 and it has a long tradition of excellence in teaching, research, and thought leadership. It offers programs like MSA, Master of Science programs, and MBA, and they're designed to blend in with foundational business principles with modern tools like AI, blockchain, and data analytics. Now, I can see a lot of you have joined in. If you all can quickly tell me in the chat box, which city are you joining in from? I can already see answers like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. If you can quickly just type in which city or country you're joining in from. I can see a lot of people have joined in from India. There's somebody joining in from Accra. There's Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Hyderabad, Faridabad, Greater Noida, again Pune. So I think we've covered a lot more from the Indian continent. There's Hyderabad, there's Ahmedabad again. We have Rudrapur, which is in Uttarakhand, which is an interesting place to join from. We have Accra, somebody's coming from Ghana. We have someone from Mumbai. Okay, so I think we have about 200 people over here. And I'm going to quickly introduce today's masterclass. Today's masterclass is on mastering consumer decision making and how brands can influence, empower, and elevate choices. Now, this is a very interesting topic. I'm personally interested in this one. Why? Because we're going to explore the transformation of the consumer decision journey due to the internet. We all use our phones all the time and we're constantly on our phones. And I'm sure we're influenced by a lot of things that we see. And in this masterclass, we're going to delve into the decision making biases that negatively impact consumers as well. Lastly, we're going to be discussing strategies that companies employ to help consumers overcome these biases, including using behavioral nudges to guide better decision making. You will also get a glimpse into the engagement classroom experience at Gies. Let me quickly introduce you to the panelists today. Meet Dr. Hayden Noel, who is a clinical associate professor of business administration at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Gies College of Business. Dr. Noel began his career at the University of Illinois in 2007 as a visiting assistant professor before serving from 2009 to 2015 as an assistant professor and from 2015 onwards as a clinical assistant professor. His research interests include consumer information processing and memory. Dr. Noel has been on the list of professors ranked as excellent for 10 years and was named Executive MBA Program Professor of the Year in the year 2016. He has also received the Professional MBA Teaching Excellence Award in 2017 and was named IMBA Professor of the Year in the year 2019. He has earned a PhD in marketing from the University of Florida in 2002. Hello, Dr. Noel. Welcome to this session. I would also like to introduce Brian Shute, who's from the admissions team at Gies, who would be taking over after Dr. Noel. Before we get started, I would like to run a quick poll, which will be on your screens. Please take 30 seconds and respond to that poll. The poll should be on your screen now. Okay, what form of learning do you think offers the best education experience? Online, on campus, or hybrid? Let's take a couple of minutes. let's take a few minutes to answer this question. I can see that we have about 300 people uh, in this webinar. We'll give it a couple of seconds to answer this question. What form of learning do you think offers the best education experience? Online, on campus, or hybrid? I think in the age of COVID, we've all gotten used to an online process, but I think after COVID, we've also been used to hybrid. So another 30 seconds and then we'll end this poll. What form of learning do you think offers the best educational experience? I think let's end this poll now and see what the results are for this poll. I think on campus, majority of them, 60% of the participants think that on campus is the best form of learning. There's a mix of hybrid and online, which stands at 26 and 14% respectively. With that, I think let's hand it over to Dr. Noel, who is going to take over and talk about how we can understand the consumer behavior process. Over to you, Dr. Noel.
Hi all, can you hear me? Hello, I assume you can. Great, great. I'm Professor Hayden Noel. I see quite a few folks from India. I was talking with a panel with a host earlier about my love for Indian cuisine and so on, mainly because I was born in a country that you might be familiar with, Trinidad and Tobago, home of one of the best batsmen in cricket in the world, Brian Lara. I would say tied with someone you may know called Sachin Tendulkar. So I am really happy to be here now. I grew up really admiring the Indian culture. I've been invited to about 20 different Indian weddings, which lasted for several days. And I ate and danced and had fun. Anyway, so let us begin. My PhD is in consumer behavior and marketing strategy, and I have been teaching online for since the beginning of our online programs. In addition, I was the director of MBA programs here at the University of Illinois for several years. I'm a bit hampered today. I had surgery on my hand, so I'm not my usual. I move. I talk with my hands. We folks in the Caribbean, we speak with our hands a lot. So I'm. It actually it's an experiment to see if it hampers my expression. All right. So let us begin. I'm going to share my slides so we can move right into it. We can jump right into it. All right. Here we go. Okay, great. I hope you can all see this. Now let us begin. So what we talk about today, we'll talk about the consumer decision journey. We'll also talk about changes to the decision journey and what might have caused it. And also we'll talk about biases in consumer decision making. Talk about biases in consumer decision making and what companies can do to overcome these biases. Actually, at the end, when we talk about these biases, I want you to listen as we discuss the biases, take notes. I want to hear from you what you think the companies can do to overcome these biases, and then we can talk about that. You'll be sharing your thoughts in the chat, and we will be discussing your ideas at the end. Okay, so let's move forward. The consumer decision journey. Now, some years ago, I decided I needed to lose some weight. I'm 60 years old. I was gaining weight, said, you know what? I need to buy a bicycle. So this is what I did. I went to online. I looked up all these different brands, read all these different reviews, and boiled it down to I had these different variables I used, the criteria to determine what type of bike I would buy. And I needed a road bike because I do a lot of cycling on the road. We have really nice bicycle trails here that we can use. I would never buy a bike in Trinidad and Tobago. The roads are too busy, it's too chaotic. And I would expect not to be alive talking to you today if I had ridden for a year in Trinidad and Tobago. So in the US, in Champaign, great bike trails. I wanted a road bike. I could ride on these concrete trails. I wanted a bike that was easy to handle, and not those racing handles, the ones where you have to hunch over the bike. I didn't want that. I wanted a straight bar. And I boiled it down to three different brands. And then after that, I started asking friends and family what their thoughts were, people who actually had experience biking. And then I cut it down from first 10 brands. I went to three. Then I went to one. I decided on this bike. And up until I hurt my arm in June, this surgery is because of an accident in June. My own fault, not because of the roads. I had until that I was riding 100 miles a week, 100 miles a week. So that was really good. My blood sugar, everything was down. I would recommend riding to any one of you if you have the space and so on to do it. Okay. All right. So this is really what typically this is what the consumer decision journey looked like. You start with a lot of brands, many brands, and then you whittle it down, fewer brands. I started with 10, I went to three, and I then went to one, and I made the purchase. And I was satisfied with the purchase, so I recommended the bike afterwards to others. And think of a purchase you've made: a car, a computer. I wouldn't say cell phone because cell phones are different. We have built up loyalty now to certain brands of cell phones. We don't do that kind of evaluation, but a product that you're not entirely familiar with. Think of your process, the process you engaged in making that decision. What did you do? Did you go from many brands down to your final choice? Did you seek opinions of others, both online from quote unquote online experts, or did you ask people you thought with friends and family you thought were expert on about that branded product, about that product category? So this is what it typically looked like. I engaged in this decision-making process last year. However, and this is what's known as the consumer decision journey. This is what the process is when we think about consumer decision making. Consumer behavior theory will tell you start, first of all, you have a large group of brands that you are aware of, which was me. Then you start becoming familiar with the different brands by doing more research. You whittle them down to the brands that meet your criteria. And then out of those brands, you might have three or four, and you decide which one you're going to purchase. So again, this is what the process of a very linear process, a very linear decision journey where you start with many brands and end with one. And this previous slide we talked about, it's what's known as a funnel. Look at it. It looks like a funnel cloud, where it's big at the top and goes down to one. This is what it looks like. Very linear process. Very linear process. Then this happened. This, the internet, the advent of the internet and online shopping. Now, I want you to type in the chat, how do you think the internet impacted this journey of moving from many brands in a very linear fashion down to one? How do you think it changed it? How do you think it changed it? Do you think the journey was still as linear? Let me see. Type in the chat. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think it was just as linear as it is? All right. Okay, no, I want to put this on the side. Made a quick process. You have multiple brands. Okay. Yeah, yes. It changed the decision journey. It changed the decision journey somewhat. If I ask you how many retail applications you have on your phone, on average, on average, um, people have between one and sometimes up to six apps on their phone. And then there are others with 10 or more. I was surprised that there are some people with zero retailer apps on their phone. I am not one of those. I am in the three to five category. Three to five category. So it's an indicator of how online shopping has actually impacted us, where we actually have to download an app to even be closer to making those decisions. Now, in terms of how the decision has changed, this has happened. The decision is no longer linear. It's no longer linear. It is more circular with various points we'll call touch points where companies can enter those touch points and influence your decision. Companies can enter these various touch points. So it's no longer straightforward. It goes around, and then companies can still impact you post purchase with the internet applications. So the advent of the internet has changed it. So these touch points are, first of all, initial consideration. So here you consider your initial set of brands, you're exposed to these brands. You in my case, I needed a bike. Okay, so therefore I would be exposed to multiple brands, 10 different brands. Then you have the active evaluation stage where I started doing my research online, started collecting data from people I thought were experts, friends and family, and whittled it down to just three brands. Three brands. And then, so during that time, I'm gathering information. I'm gathering information. Then I went ahead to select my brand at purchase. Select my brand at purchase. That's known as closure when you buy the products, closure. And finally, there's post purchase. Now, with the advent of the internet, it's no longer a case that you in your decision making remove brands and stay with three brands and then go on to one final brand like I did. That's not how the internet has impacted the decision journey because of, and I'll tell you an example, a quick story, because of the ability of companies to know where you are, what you're doing at that point in time, because of how you use your phone, they can interject into the decision making process almost at any stage. I went to Best Buy to purchase headphones for my daughter. And I was talking about these headphones, did the search on the phone. I went to Best Buy. I have other shopping apps that I said on my phone. And while I was in store, I started receiving ads for different brands. I already had a brand in mind, so I was receiving ads for different brands. I was receiving ads before the point of purchase. I was receiving information at the time I was going to purchase. So it's no longer linear. Companies can interject themselves in the decision making process almost at any point and sometimes change people's minds about what they're going to buy. So it's really critical to understand this. You no longer have full control of the decision making process like you did. Companies can interject themselves whenever they want because of access to your information, your location, what you've said about your purchase, and what you've typed about your purchase in search engines and so on. I don't have to tell you this. We're all products. You are a product. Your information is being sold. Your information is being so. Just be comfortable with it. Be comfortable with the fact that you have because of how companies have access to information, you are almost like commoditized. You're a commodity. So therefore, companies can get access to information, bid on you during the entire process, and interject, place themselves and place their brand into your consideration process at any point. Now, let's look at this. The number of brands that you would consider during the active valuation phase In the past, like with me, it would narrow. Now it expands as consumers actually get new information. It says seek information, but the information is presented to you. Presented to you. Brands interrupt, they interject into the process while you're considering and push other brands out of the picture. Push other brands out of the picture. And that's even before purchase and during the purchase process. During the purchase process. For instance, let's look at this during active consideration for automobiles. Typically, you would have whittled it down to two or three brands. Now, during consideration, people have been shown to add two more brands to the process. Personal careers, you add one more brand. Skincare, you add 1.8 more brands. That is interesting. You add almost two brands in the skincare process. Telecom carriers is not as, you don't add as many, mainly because a lot of telecom carriers in the West, they trap you in these contracts and so on. So it's difficult to add and move other telecom carriers out. And in the US, we just don't have that many telecom carriers as before. So this happens. This happens. The decision-making process has changed. It's more cyclical, and companies can interject and interrupt the decision-making process at any point in time. Any point in time. So let's time is kind of running out, so I actually have to move forward quickly. I'm going to go past this. So type in the chat. Given this change, given these changes, what can companies do? Given these changes, what can companies do? What can they do? Type in the chat. Type in the chat. What can companies do? What can they do? They now know that this is what happens. Follow trends. What else? What else? Type in the chat quickly. What can companies do? Given now they know, let me see in the chat. I'm not seeing enough. We have too many people. Type in the chat. Come on. There are folks here from Africa, from India, from all over the world. Let's hear your perspective. Let's hear your perspective. Advertise their products. Okay. I like this. Anything else? Anything else? Create well, awareness is there. But they have to make sure company. I see what you're saying. Make them more aware of your brand. New marketing. Okay, okay, good. Here are some of the things companies can do. Tailor their messaging. So make sure it's targeted to that specific individual, representing that the company, can satisfy your needs. Invest in consumer-driven marketing. A lot of consumers are now more trusting of the opinions of other consumers. Other consumers. So when you're doing your research, you look at reviews, and I saw someone type that in the chat, reviews that other consumers have done about your the brands that you're considering. So if companies invest in, I wouldn't like to say generating these reviews, but invest in people who are trusted to generate reviews. And you see that a lot. You see that with these influencers where they actually pretend, sorry, let me don't say pretend, where they actually try products and engage with product usage. And then after that is done, they post a review saying, I love this product or not, but knowing they've been paid $50,000 or $20,000 to actually review the product positively. So invest in consumer-driven marketing and win the in-store battle, because in-store decisions can be changed. You can interrupt the process at the point of purchase while the person is in store for them to switch to your brand. You can do it at any point in time. You can do it at any point in time, even up to the point of purchase. So these are some things that companies actually do. Make sure the message is personalized, invest in consumer-driven marketing because it's more trusted, and make sure that they can win the battle in terms of interrupting the process during purchase. Now, let's do a quick experiment. Let's do a quick experiment. This is something I'm going to have to let me stop sharing this. and I'm going to share something else with you. I'm going to share something else with you. Okay, here we go. Share. Okay, I don't think. Are you seeing this? I can't see it up here, so let me stop sharing. I apologize. I'm going to share this. Okay, I'm going to take you to two restaurants in Champaign, right? One is called Golden Harbor. Golden Harbor is a Chinese restaurant. It's lovely, it's wonderful, great food, very tasty. And this is their menu, right? This is their menu. So let's say you're ordering noodle soup. You have all of these options for noodle soup. But let's look. You have 76 different categories, 76, right? Let's just go to um, diced chicken. Diced chicken. In the diced chicken menu, you have about 30, 25, 30, 30 items, right? Uh-oh, where am I? 25, 30 items. But multiply that by 76. Multiply that by 76. Think about what it would take, how long it would take for you to order in this restaurant, right? If you're ordering in this restaurant, type in the chat for me. You think it would be how long you think you take to order a meal? It's your first time there in terms of number of minutes. You are with a friend of yours, and both of you really love Chinese and Taiwanese food. How long you think you take to order? Two of you to agree and order a dinner. Type in the chat. How long? How long you think? 15 to 20 minutes, 10 to 50, 1 hour. Someone says 1 hour to decide. Yeah, 30 minutes, 25 minutes. I will tell you, I went there with a group of friends, six of us, six of us. We had never been there before. We took 38 minutes, 38 minutes. All right, 38 minutes. Okay, to decide. Now, let me show you another one. This is Black Dog and Champagne. This is their menu, right? Let's look at what they have. One, two, three. Well, whoa, whoa. That's it. That's it there. Wow. That's their menu. And then they have ribs, their rib menu, and the sides. You have the sides. And then you could order different types of barbecue sauce. That's their menu. That's their menu. That's their menu. How long you think you take to order here? How long you think you take to order? Type in the chat. 5 to 7, 5 to 10, 5. All right. I took a group of 4 friends there. 28 minutes. Peter, I think you're making that up. Peter Efusunu. Peter Efusunu, I think you're making up that 28 minutes. It took us, 4 of us who went here, it took us less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes to order. Less than 5 minutes to order. So it took a very short period of time for us to order. And let's talk about why. Let's talk about why. And I have to actually go a bit faster. So I'm going to skip a couple of my slides. I'll skip a couple of my slides. There is this idea that if you have more choice, it's actually better for consumers. Some consumers believe that they have more choice. They can, they'll end up coming out with a better decision. That's not necessarily true. This is known as a paradox of choice, the paradox of choice. So sometimes, as we see from those, think of it, think of ordering at that restaurant at Golden Harbor. Think of how long it would take you. All right. If we had a smaller class and this were not a webinar, I'd actually have allowed you to go and try to make a decision yourself. You would still be making that decision. I would stop you within 3 to 4 minutes. 5 minutes, you would not have made a decision. Too many options are sometimes counterproductive. It takes longer to decide, right? Very much so, especially if you don't have a lot of expertise in that field, in that area. And people sometimes are less likely to buy when they're faced with all of these options. When they face all these options, you might lose people. And there tend to be lower levels of satisfaction. Why do you think? Type in the chat quickly for me. Why would people be less satisfied when they have more choice? And by the way, I'm not saying, anyway, let me don't say this because I want you to say it at the end. All right. Why do you think people are less satisfied? Type in the chat for me, please. Why are people less satisfied, you think, when they have more choice? Ah, fear of missing out. And they could have, Shruti Gupta, spot on, Shruti Gupta. There's this thing called cognitive dissonance. It's the idea that I've made the wrong decision. Cognitive dissonance occurs when there's risk involved. There's not that much risk involved here, or where there are multiple attractive options. In this case, there are myriad options in Golden Harbor. So many options. And we're sitting there, we're eating, and we're seeing all these wonderful dishes coming out. We're smelling the wonderful food, and we're saying, wow, this is fantastic. I could have gotten that beef. I could have gotten that pork. I've gotten chicken. They're chicken dishes galore. There's so many different types: diced chicken, sliced chicken, stewed chicken, curry chicken, all types. They don't have curry chicken, though. That's the only thing. Let me stop. I said curry, I was wrong. But they have so many different types of options that it impacts post-purchase the idea that I've made the correct choice because I could have gotten any one of these things. That increases what's known as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. I want you to remember this because I'm going to ask you at the end in about 8 minutes, what could companies have done differently? You know what makes it worse as well when you have so many choices? Here's what makes it worse. There are two types of people. Consumer decision theorists classify decision makers in two groups, right? There are people who are known as maximizers, and there are people known as satisficers. I'll tell you how that impacts you in a second. So some things I want you to remember. Having choice is actually good. You want to ensure that you give consumers a choice because it actually increases their motivation to participate, to be involved, to purchase. If you can only get one item, one type of item in this day and age, maybe that might have worked in the 1800s. In this day and age, in the current times, people want to have more choice. They will be able to, at that point in time, they feel like they have things under control. They have greater control. But there's a point at which you must stop, a point at which too much choice actually leads to negative outcomes. Negative outcomes. What makes it worse is either maximizers or satisficers. When it comes to certain things, I'm a maximizer. Running shoes, walking shoes, I'm a maximizer. The shoes must fit just perfectly. I must walk around in them in the store for at least 5 minutes to ensure I don't feel any tweaks, even when they're new. I'm a maximizer. Maximizers mean you must maximize satisfaction, you must maximize that sense of contentment. Satisficers are those people who just have to be satisfied. This will do. This will do. I don't have to be fully satisfied. As long as I'm just satisfied enough, I will do this. I will buy it. I will engage. If you are a maximizer, then this whole process will take even longer. This whole process will take even longer. If you're a satisficer, it will not. All right. So maybe let me take it back from Brian. Maybe Brian is a real maximizer. So therefore, and I am a maximizer when it comes to walking and running shoes. So that means that for a maximizer, the process takes even longer, even longer. All right. Now let's talk about two different psychological biases, and we'll end there. I'll go through these very quickly because my time is I think it's the scheduled time is almost up. First, and these are all things companies must consider. One is default options. Default options. Defaults are when you either opt in or you opt out. You opt in or you opt out. Right? That's a default. That's a default. The default is where you start. You start, the starting point. So let me ask you this. And default with default options, there's this thing called the status quo bias that comes into play. The status quo bias that comes into play. Usually, when a default is chosen, people tend to stay with it, mainly because for consumers tend not to want to change the status quo. How the situation has started, that provides them shifting that actually creates more disequilibrium in their brain. They actually feel uncentered if they have to change what the status quo is. That's why sometimes it's hard to move, it's hard to change jobs, it's hard to leave relationships, it's hard to get divorced, all of these things, because the status quo has brings with a certain lower level of risk. And even though it might be lower levels of satisfaction, this is the devil you know. This is the person, this is the situation with which you're familiar. All right? So you tend not to change your established behavior. This is known as a status quo bias. This is your established behavior. People tend not to change it. People tend not to change it. Now, this impacts the idea of default options. I'll ask you a question. You know, in a lot of countries, there's organ donation, and when people get their licenses in the US, their driver's license at 18, you can decide if you want to donate your organs or not. When you pass away, you could give people your organs to save lives, all right? Now, the default system is being used, opt in, you either opt in or opt out. Here in the States, you have to opt in, all right? In Germany, in Germany, the it's opt in, meaning the status quo is no one is an organ donor and you opt in. Type in the chat how many people in Germany you think are organ donors. And in Austria, the default, by the way, is everyone's an organ donor and you have to opt out. So type in the chat for Germany, Austria, how many people you think are organ donors? For Germany, how many organ donors in Austria? Opt in. Opt in. In Germany, it is opt in. 12% in Germany. If it's 12% in Germany, what do you think it is in Austria? Type in the chat, please. Type in the chat. 40, 80. Type in the chat, please. I'm waiting. 30. Remember the status quo bias. Remember the status quo bias. People are much less likely to change. All right, Ishita, you are close. It's almost 100%. It's almost 100%. And I use both of these countries mainly because of their similarity in terms of culture. Their similarity in terms of culture. That's why I use them. So 99% in Austria, 12% in Germany, because of the default option. Because of the default option, people do not like to change established behavior. So for you, establishing the appropriate behavior initially is critical if you're a business owner. Think of what you can do. Think of what you can do. How can you use this information? How can you use this bias? How you use this bias? And let me tell you something. Why it's called a bias. I am aware of the status quo bias, and yet still I'm guilty of it. I am aware of it, and I'm guilty of it. It happens to me. That's how biases work, right? You have to work very hard to overcome it. And I'm not using, in the age in this political age with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, when you say bias, people think of different types of biases. No, I'm not talking about that, prejudicial biases and so on. I'm simply talking about a bias, psychological bias that could impact your behavior when it comes to being a consumer. Being a consumer. All right. So that's one. Let's talk quickly about hyperbolic discounting and we'll end here. We'll end here. So hyperbolic discounting. Let's say we say, Lakshmi, do you want $100 today or 120 in a week? Lakshmi will most likely say, I'll take $100 today. You get $100 today. Why wait till next week? All right. Why wait till next week? Lakshmi, do you want $100 in a year or 120 in a year and a week? Lakshmi most likely will take the 120 in the year and a week. Why do you think this is? Type in the chat. Why do you think it is? If if the deadline is a week from today, Lakshmi is more likely to take the $100. If it's a year from today and a year and a week, she's going to wait that extra week. Tell me why. It's a simple time value of money. Wow, wow. Well, thank you to the Seed folks for bringing these smart folks here. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Seed, thank you very much, Seed Global Education. This is great. Well, quick result, yes, Ishita, but it's a bit more than that. So Nakshi's is kind of more on target here. All right. Let me close the chat box. Close the chat box. Now, with hyperbolic discounting, people actually tend to choose smaller rewards than larger later rewards when you don't have to wait that long. When you don't have to wait that long, you actually, if you have to delay and it's tomorrow or the day after or next week, or even sometimes next month, all right? People in this case, it happens when the delay is closer. You take this, all right? Now let's go on. When you procrastinate, people who procrastinate, I do sometimes, you opt for instant gratification. You want to enjoy, you enjoy yourself now rather than the future reward of putting things, setting things aside. Why do you do that? Why do people opt for instant gratification? Because of evolution. Because of evolution. I see. I'm wrapping up. I'm wrapping up. Seed. I'm wrapping up. I'm wrapping up. So how can you overcome this? How can you overcome this? One is instead of putting things off, you have to think about how you would be in the future, how tired you would be, how if you go out and party the night before, how is it going to impact you in the future, right? How will you be tomorrow? Next, you can also lock people into future decisions. Lock yourself into future decisions. So increase your chance by removing any temptation from the future. And finally, break down your big goals into smaller tasks. So therefore, you'll be able to complete a smaller task more immediately than wait for a long time in the future. So type in the chat, what can companies do to overcome this, the status quo bias? What can they do to reduce this idea of hyperbolic discounting, time value of money? What can they do? What can they do? So type it in the chat and I'll wrap it up here because my time is up. My time is up. My time is up. Sorry, I had to rush through the last couple slides. I apologize. Let me put you on to Seed to move this forward and wrap this up.
Thank you, Dr. Noel. I think that was a very interesting and a very interactive session. I think we still haven't got the last answer that you asked for, but we'll just wait in for people to put that in the chat and then we can take that up later. Uh, Before I hand it over to Brian, who's going to talk about programs that Gies College of Business offers, I would like to run the second poll for today. Can we please have the second poll for today? Uh, it's a very interesting question, and it's based on consumer behavior and Dr. Noel's presentation. How do you think the internet has changed the consumer behavior decision process? You have a few options in front of you. There's increased research opportunities, there's enhanced social influence, there's greater price sensitivity. There's also a shift towards convenience, or do you think it's all of the above? Or do you think that it's none of the above, but you have something else which is not in the above option? So we'll give it a couple of seconds for the second poll on how do you think the internet has changed the way the consumer behaves and takes decisions. We'll give it another 10 seconds. Surveying, there's an interesting answer in the chat. I think you must have chosen others. Very interesting answer, Naman. Thank you. Surveys, another, Anya has also said surveys. Okay, Yovel has said all of the above. We have the results in front of us. All of the above stands out with 59% in the poll, and the other choices make up for the balance of 41%. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian, who's going to take over and talk about Gies and its programs offerings. Over to you, Brian.
All right, thank you so much. So let me go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get started. So I'd like to echo Dr. Noel and thank you for Seed for giving us a lot of excellent students to work with here today. So we're just going to talk a little bit about kind of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign overall, who we are, what we do, more specifically the Gies College of Business and the various master's programs that we offer. So we've been around since 1867, so for over 150 years now, really been educating students with an eye towards the future, really kind of working to come up with innovative solutions to solve real world problems. So we are a very highly ranked university as well. We currently just moved up to number 9 public university in the United States. So if you come to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, also known as UIUC, just know that you're going to get a world-class education from amazing faculty members just like Dr. Noel. So you'll be well taken care of once you join us on campus. We are a very large and a very diverse campus as well. Over 56,000 students when you combine our undergraduate, graduate, and professional population. And we represent all 50 states and over 100 different countries from around the world. So really kind of bringing thought leaders together from all over the globe, really to kind of help solve problems in the business community. Also a top 5 university for research, NSF funded research. So again, our faculty are very, very involved, not only in their classes, but also in research as well. And not only highly respected in the United States, but worldwide as well. So these are just some of the things that we feel that sets the Gies College of Business apart from other business schools around the country. Our students in all of our master's programs work very closely with our career and professional development team, and that happens before you even arrive on our campus. Really, because most of our programs are about 12 months or less, so we really want to make sure that the students in our programs are really kind of having that mindset of what's the next step, what can this master's degree do to take me to the next step in my career. So there's a pre-arrival course that our students are able to walk through just to kind of work on getting their mindset ready for that career search process. And then a lot of different individualized career advising, application review, resume review, mock interviews, and things like that. We also give our students a lot of opportunities to network with potential employers, as there's several different career fairs, employer showcases, and things like that. So that way, you not only are you going to be getting a world-class education, but you feel very well prepared to have these conversations when you're ready to look for that first job after you complete your master's degree as well. So one thing that we really try to focus on in all of our master's program is developing some action learning within the program. As I mentioned, since most of our programs are about 12 months or less, we feel like this action learning component is very, very important. So that way you can get some real world experience during your master's degree program as well. Most of our classes, you'll be paired with a real life business clientele where you can help kind of solve real world business problems with using the curriculum that you're using in your master's program to kind of help develop solutions for this company. So it's a great opportunity. It's a great investment in your resume. So something you can include in that. And it's a great conversation point when you're having those conversations with potential employers and recruiters, that you do kind of have that real world experience and can have some experience before you start your next job after completion of the master's degree. So we have 7 on-campus master's degree, and they're listed here on your screen. The Masters of Accounting Science, the MS in Accountancy, MS in Business Analytics, MS in Finance, Financial Engineering, MS in Management, as well as the MS in Technology Management. We've also got 3 online programs as part of our portfolio as well, the IMBA, the IMSM, as well as the IMSA program. So again, regardless which program you choose, you're going to get a awesome education from some top-ranked faculty, and it's going to have a really good experience both inside the classroom and outside the classroom as well, with all of the different resources offered in the Gies College of Business. So one important note is all of our on-campus master's programs are STEM designated. This is particularly important for our international students, as this does qualify them for the additional 24 months of optional practical training, or OPT. So students that graduate from our master's programs can stay and work in the United States for up to 36 months. This makes you more appealing to potential employers. Those that are non-STEM designated, sometimes you can only stay for 12 months, but this 24-month extension really gives our students a great opportunity to get more experience working in the business environment in the United States, and also multiple opportunities to enter the H-1B visa lottery if you have an interest in continuing your career in the United States as well. So just a quick review here of kind of some common application components. All of our programs, you're just going to apply through the regular graduate college application, typical essays, letters of recommendation. There is a video essay component where you'll answer 3 randomized questions in 3 minutes, English proficiency test, unofficial transcripts, things like that. So just a quick rundown of some of the common components that you will see on an application to a master's program in the Gies College of Business. So these are just a couple of upcoming dates and deadlines to be aware of. In our programs, we admit on a rolling basis throughout each round. We are currently in round 2 for the majority of our programs. So if you're interested in joining us for either summer or fall of 2025, please take a quick note of these dates and deadlines as they will be approaching rather quickly here. And as I mentioned, just this is a quick brief overview, but we do encourage, we've got an amazing crop of student ambassadors that are current students in the program. If you'd like to connect with them and discuss their experiences in the program so far, I definitely encourage you to do so. You can scan that QR code in the top middle there to connect with our ambassadors. If you have any general questions about the programs or about the admissions process, and would like to speak one-on-one with myself or one of the other admissions advisors, you can use that QR code over on the left side. And if there's any questions that we can answer for you after today's seed session, the best way to reach us is via email on the bottom left of your screen there, grad@business.illinois.edu. So that is going to conclude my time here. So I will turn it back over to Seed.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm just going to I'm just going to request everyone to post all their questions in the Q&A box. If you have any questions for Dr. Noel or for Brian, whether it's related to admissions, please start posting your questions in the Q&A box. Dr. Noel, there's a very interesting question for you by Shravya in the Q&A box. What opportunities are there for students to specialize in consumer behavior or related fields? And does Gies College offer any hands-on projects or internships with companies that focus on consumer insights and behavioral science? I'll let you take that over and answer it. Dr. Noel, you're on mute. So sorry.
That's an interesting question. I'd say Brian will have to help answer part of it. I will tell you, in our classes, you don't have the option to do a specific consumer behavior course, but we do have consumer behavior components in some of our courses. For example, in my marketing course, this lecture that I presented today, that's actually part of my consumer behavior lecture, and students get to work hands-on on different assignments. In terms of projects, for several of our courses are project-based. You actually do a semester-long project. In one course, working as a consultant for a company. In my course, you do the same, where we choose several companies, some of them run by University of Illinois alums, and they have a marketing challenge, and students actually work with the company to help resolve that challenge. So it's really, we do quite a bit of hands-on work, project-based work with students. You know, the thing is, we believe that theory is great. It's great to talk about the theory and the marketing theory, the finance theory, but students really learn, especially at the graduate level, by doing. They learn by doing. So we actually approach this, and this is our motto. We approach it with a purpose, very purposefully. We want students to acquire the knowledge by getting their hands dirty. You know that phrase. Think of it. Imagine telling someone, "I'm going to teach you how to bowl a cricket ball, and I'll write you 2 paragraphs. Then you should go out and bowl." No, there's no way you can do that. You have to get the ball in your hand and do it, whether you spin or pace, you have to actually bowl the ball. So that's it. Or if you're in another sport, tennis, you have to actually go out and serve. We actually put students on the court to practice their serves. Brian, you want to take over any in terms of specializations and so on?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on a lot of the topics there. And I think that's one reason we really try to emphasize the action learning in our various programs, just due to the general length of the programs. Usually they range from 9 to 15 months. There's not a lot of opportunity to do formal internships. So we really try to integrate that action learning into all of our programs, just as Dr. Noel said. So that way, not only are you learning the concepts, but you can apply the concepts as well. Again, these are great talking points when talking with potential recruiters, when you're able to use specific examples of when you have worked with real life clients as consultants and things like that. So I think it's a great opportunity for our students and something that they definitely feel is an advantage of the master's programs in Gies.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dr. Noel. I hope that answers Shravya's question. Brian, I think I'm going to give the next question to you. Tanvi is asking how can she craft a compelling application for Gies, and what are the key areas they should focus on? Should it be personal statements or good recommendations? If you can just elaborate on the application part, I'm sure there are a couple of more students who want to know on that front. So I'll let you take over on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question and one that we get often. One thing I will say is we do review all applications holistically. What does that mean? Basically, we look at all components of the application. So I encourage students not to focus on one aspect more than the other. Obviously, we're going to look at what courses you've taken, what grades, but in the Gies College of Business, we're also big on fit. How does our program fit with your educational background and your career goals moving forward? Why are you specifically interested in the master's programs in Gies? While there are a lot of different options in the business schools throughout the United States, we want to make sure that your particular career goals align with what our programs can offer. The other thing I would mention is just be yourself in the application. In your personal statement, in your academic statement, answer the prompts as they are written and definitely make sure it lets yourself shine through. Don't write what we think you want to hear, rather what you truly believe. Because like I said, we get a lot of different highly qualified applicants to all of our different programs, but we're looking for a student that one is very interested in being a part and contributing to the Gies community, both academically as well as socially, but also somebody that can come in, can contribute to the diversity and the academic excellence of our programs. And so I wouldn't focus on one aspect of the application more than others. All of them are important, but really just make sure you be yourself, you clearly outline your career goals, and make sure you also complete all of the application requirements before we can review your application as well.
Great. I think that's some really good advice, and I hope that helps Tanvi. Just a follow-up question by Srinidhi. Do you need work experience, for your application, or do some programs require that? Because a lot of students may have just graduated. They might have a few years of experience. So if you could just take that one as well.
Yeah, so none of our 7 on-campus master's programs require a specific amount of work experience. The only program offered by Gies that does specify a number of years of work experience is our online IMBA program, which requires 3 years of work experience. Students that don't have the 3 years of work experience, one thing that we really try to encourage as well is if you choose to come to the UIUC campus and complete any of our specialized masters, those are stackable into the IMBA program. So what a lot of students will do, they'll come do one of our specialized masters in accountancy, management, technology management, business analytics, things like that. Go out, get started in their career, obtain those 3 years of work experience, then go back for the IMBA program. And with that stackability feature, if you do one of the specialized masters and then enroll in the IMBA later, you're about halfway done with the program. So it's a great option if students kind of are debating back and forth between a specialized master's and an IMBA. In Gies, you can actually do both, and it's a great way to kind of get the best of both worlds and really be in a great position to be a business leader in your career moving forward.
Great. I hope that answers Srini's question. I can already see that Dr. Noel has been answering and typing out a few of the questions. Would you like to take some of the questions live, or would you like to answer some of the questions live? Like, I really like this question by Swastika. With the advent of the internet, do brands find it harder to reposition themselves as consumers associate with certain qualities?
Yeah, I try to answer that, but it's a good question. Um, Positioning depends on associations generated by brands. So, for instance, if I say Volvo, one of the first things that would come to mind is safety. Although when I do it in class, some students say old people. I take offense because I owned 2 Volvos. So, but safety comes to mind. So positioning is established based on the generation of ability to generate, to have consumers generate these associations. With the advent of the internet, consumers are more exposed to these associations. So therefore, if you're trying to reposition, it's more difficult because more and more consumers are exposed to what your brand stands for. So they're more exposed to your positioning. So it does make it harder to make that switch, especially if you have a long living, a brand that has been around for a long time. It's even more difficult. So positioning depends on awareness, and awareness is impacted by the internet.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Noel. Brian, I think I'm going to let you answer this question. I think it's very political, but I'll still let you take a call on that. I think Trump has recently won the elections lately. So one of the students wants to know how is that going to affect Indian students? Because I think that's a very crucial aspect. So I'll let you answer that.
Brian, could I just jump in and say one thing quickly?
Please,
One of the
please.
things that President Trump for years, and I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, so I don't want to go into that. He has spoken about actually encouraging immigration of people with skills, with certain skill sets, people with an education, and so on. And that's something since he had talked about since his previous victory. So I'll just say, even though we can't necessarily foresee the future, the idea of getting an education under any administration, but even under, especially under the Trump administration, getting an education based on things they've said in the past actually could enhance your chances of successfully migrating to the US, successfully being, I don't want to say successfully applying for immigration status. I can't promise that at all, but I will tell you it would count more for you having a US degree than against you. All right, Brian, you take over. I don't know if I spoke out of turn there, but let me know.
No, I think that was all great, and I think I would echo a lot of what you said. TBD, to be determined exactly how that's going to go. But I do think we're all very aware and kind of adjusting to the times. I do think there's still going to be a lot of options for students to come join our programs. And as I mentioned, just based on the reputation in the business community with Gies throughout the business community in the United States, I feel like all of our students are going to kind of have a leg up on the competition. We have a huge alumni base working all over. As Dr. Noel mentioned, a lot of the businesses that we partner with are actually run by UIUC alum. There's a lot of alum that come back to our campus to recruit. So I think that'll give you a unique opportunity in the job placement landscape, kind of regardless of what administration that we will be under and what happens in the years to come.
Okay. I think with that, we're going to wrap this webinar. We're 5 minutes over time already. In case anybody has any questions, then they can email us, or they can email the email that Brian showed in his presentation and direct their questions directly to Gies College of Business. On that note, I would like to thank everyone for joining in today's session. We hope that you gain valuable insights into Gies College and the marketing and consumer insights that Dr. Noel shared. Thank you so much, Dr. Noel and Brian, for a wonderful evening and a wonderful morning that you have. And thank you everyone for joining in today for this wonderful webinar.
Can I just jump in for 1 second because I saw it come in the chat?
Yes.
I did just want to mention that all of our participants will receive a follow-up email from Gies here in the next day or so, and you will be eligible for an application fee waiver to apply for our programs as well. I saw it pop up in the chat. We hadn't mentioned that yet, so I just wanted to throw that in before we wrap. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Brian, for that one. We will be sending out application fee waiver process for Gies College by tomorrow. So do look forward to that from our end. Thank you so much, everyone.